massive group of young men who are clinging to that message on shows like the Whatever podcast.
Rude.
They're bringing them on for this humiliation porn. Why is all of this content allowed on YouTube? YouTube, who has been, at the forefront of, we need to protect those who are,
blah, blah, blah. Okay, you can pause it. So basically, she was calling for Whatever podcast and then channels similar to it. So I don't know if Myron's still in the chat. Calling for his channel to be not just demonetized, but actually censored and removed off of YouTube. This applies to other people in the space, probably like Rolla, other people, Mike Sartain, these sorts of people, right?
Why is that? I'm going to tell you why that is. Pixie's just mad that she couldn't score a bag like Ashley St. Clair did. L Pixie for picking the wrong guy to trap for money. True. She's in the minor leagues there. Frito sends in $10. I appreciate it. The reason, actually, the biggest vindication for Brian and the Whatever podcast and for any of the other Manosphere podcasts which exists is Ashley St. Clair herself. What the Manosphere and shows like with the Whatever podcast serve to do is to highlight something which is very important, that there is a predatory nature which exists to women where they utilize their sexuality in exchange for resources and make men aware that that is the case. Of course, Ashley St. Clair hates this. She thinks, no, what you're doing is socially shaming women for making decisions where they, in a predatory way, utilize their sexuality to gain resources. Now, what does Ashley St. Clair do, which proves this point? She utilizes her sexuality to gain resources from the richest man on planet Earth, thus vindicating Brian 100% and anybody else who's inside of the Manosphere who is explaining to men that these super predatory women exist and that their entire purpose in life is to net you, a man who has a wallet, by utilizing their sexuality. It's probably the most amazingly ironic thing that I've ever heard in my fucking life. So, don't. She says don't shed a light on this, because if you do, women like myself cannot utilize this as a way to move in towards resources by simply handing a man our pussy. That's it. That's why the one-sided fight happens against Brian, because Brian has been, like him or hate him, at the forefront of making sure that every single type of predatory woman is exposed by having the sunlight poured on the fact that this happens all the fucking time. It also happened with one of the women sitting at this very table, one Daisy Chen, who decided to go through an entire fake pregnancy shakedown, ritual against a man she perceived as being very wealthy in order to get a bunch of money off of him. The attorneys who were involved in that case said it was a shakedown and that there was never any actual proof delivered that this even existed to begin with, or that it was Fresh's kid to begin with, if there was ever a kid at all. So the thing is so funny, ultimately, and so hilarious to me, is that one woman sitting at the table who did do this, while Brian is ironically talking about another woman who's been trashing his show, who trashes the show because Brian exposes women like this, who do things like that, and Ashley St. Clair happens to be a woman who's doing exactly the same thing. It is one of the most ironic things that I've ever heard in my life. And that's why this actually exists, is because if rich men wisen up and they don't move towards that, then these women, unfortunately, will have to do this thing called settle. They don't want to do that. This isn't all women. It's not even the vast majority of them. But there are some hyper-predatory women who utilize their sexuality for this, for this idea. In this case, they don't mind being shared by Genghis Khan warlord Elon Musk, who has no problem having sex with, 20 fucking different women and them having his kids because he can afford to do it. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He just wants as much of his genetics out there as he can possibly get. However, for most women, even the top tier percent who are predatory will never grab Elon Musk. They're usually going for the local millionaire or something like this. Easy enough for shows like Whatever. If those guys happen to stumble upon it, it takes that away from them, right? They fucking hate it. So they call it predatory. The predators call this show predatory.